we are here to give you more love for the 2 quarterback leagues. Superflex time, Matthew. For those that have never played Superflex, quite simply, it's not just a 2 quarterback league. It just means you have the option to start a second quarterback.
Yeah, that's correct. So Superflex is different than 2 quarterback leagues in this very sense is that you don't always have to start a second quarterback. Ideally you obviously do, but in a 2 quarterback league, generally speaking, you have less flexibility. Like you 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, maybe a 3rd wide receiver, tight end, and 2 quarterbacks, and maybe there's also a flex. But in a Superflex, usually you have more flex spots. You might have 3 or 4 flex spots, and then one of which is a super flex spot, which allows you to start running back, wide receiver, tight end, and or a quarterback. And so that's what you want. In an ideal world, in a super flex, you're starting 2 quarterbacks, but it does give you the flexibility in case you manage to draft 2 quarterbacks that have the same bye week or one of your guys gets injured, what have you. So that's sort of the idea there. It is my favorite way to play the League of Assholes, the league that we are all in. It is a super flex league here as well. I'm the 2-time defending champion of it, no big deal, just saying. Neither of these guys have a title in that particular league.
It's a terrible league. It's really just an abomination.
I'm also not a fan of Superflex.
No, it's terrible. You have people like clamoring to the waiver wire for Tommy DeVito and Easton Stick to save their season.
How much did you once bid for Easton Stick?
Probably a good amount of money. I traded Cooper Kupp last year for Baker Mayfield, which worked, but at the time it seemed totally insane.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It did. Anyway, but it also obviously gets rid of defenses and kickers, which all leagues should do.
That's very good. Yes.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. Superflex quarterbacks, tier 1. You heard some of these elite names during the top 50 in the last segment. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow also in this tier here, Matthew. And we kind of kick things off with a question from Herberto Ventura. Gibbs or Hurts at 108 in a Superflex PPR, half bonus for running backs?
Give me Hurts.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you still lean with a tier 1 quarterback.
It's a great question. And listen, you're not screwing it up either way because I think, again, a half-point bonus for running backs is significant. So I get the question, but I think I'd still rather the quarterbacks.
Yep.
Again, you're starting 2, and at some point you run out. But I will say, as we just showed with that tier, once you get past that tier, then I'm waiting a little bit.
Yeah, to our tier 2, which we'll get to in just a second.
The other thing that's important here, Jay, is that it's important to sort of get a sense of how the rest of the league values quarterbacks in a Superflex league. Because I remember one time, I was in a league, it was a long story, but I'm in a league for business, right? There was like, somebody asked me to play in this league kind of hey, play in a league with Matthew, blah, blah, blah. So it's a Superflex league. And so I got the number 1 pick and I picked Josh Allen and I came back around and I picked and I was like, how is Jalen Hurts still here? Like only 2 or 3 people. And so I picked both those guys, but what ended up happening is that no one else either realized it was a Superflex league or they were more inexperienced players. And so people ended up getting Mahomes and Burrow in the 5th or 6th round. And you're like, well, listen, I just played a premium for my quarterbacks, but that doesn't do me any good because now everyone else in the league is getting quarterbacks really cheaply because the rest of the league just didn't understand, sort of game theory.
I think normally, though, it goes the other way. When if people do
I'm
realize
not
they're
in that
playing
league anymore. I did it once.
Yeah, it sounds like a one and done for sure.
If people know they're playing in a Superflex league and it's like their first time playing it, they usually overreach for quarterbacks.
Right.
It's like, there's a new thing with 2 quarterbacks.
Dak Prescott goes in the second round every time.
Yeah. So often the inefficiency is like, I'll take Bijan Robinson over Baker Mayfield.
Like I said, after you get past that tier 1 of quarterbacks, then I'm into the Bijans and CeeDee Lambs of the world. Yeah, for sure.
Let's take a look at tier 2. This is more rounds 2 and 3. Maybe you wait on a quarterback. Maybe you do decide to double up like Matthew did in his business league. Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, Justin Fields, and Kyler Murray fall into this bucket.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, I'm in a Superflex league right now, a slow draft that I talked about with a bunch of experts, and it's like I'm picked 7 or 8 in that league, and by the time it got to me, everyone was gone. Every one of the tier 1 guys were gone. So I picked Jahmyr Gibbs, and then on my back, and in the second round, I picked Mahomes. So I do think you want a quarterback, especially if it's one of those top 2 tiers. I do think you want a quarterback at least in the first 2 rounds in a Superflex, assuming other guys are being drafted.
Yep, agreed.
If the league is, valuing quarterbacks in a way. Yeah.
Tier 3, these are guys you're probably looking at or hopefully looking at as your second quarterback to fill that super flex spot. Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love, J.J. McCarthy, rounds 4 to 6. I mean, Matthew, this clearly is just a lot of guys that are unknowns in fantasy right now, or guys that do not have the ceiling of anyone in front of them, like Goff, for instance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I think Drake May and Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, like there's a lot of guys with some upside here, but there's obviously question marks. I know, Jay, you're really high on Jordan Love this year. Can C.J. Stroud bounce back? J.J. McCarthy, like, he made a start of Sam Darnold. Why can't he do it out of a top 10 pick in J.J. McCarthy if he's healthy? The other thing I'll just say here about Superflex leagues in general, but I wouldn't mind any one of those tier 3 as my number 2 quarterback. I wouldn't want to go into a Superflex leagues with one of those guys as my QB1. I'd want one of the first 2 tiers and then my number 2 quarterback from there. But what I will say is that the larger your lineup is, like I've been in some leagues where it's like 12, it's like you start 13 players, you start 12 players a week. So the more spots you're having, the more flex spots there are, obviously, the less value there is on quarterbacks, as opposed to if you're starting 9 or 10 versus 12 or 13.
Michael Macias, I've never done a super flex, but I think my strategy would be to load up on skill players, then get J.J. McCarthy and Geno towards the end. So this always seems like a good idea the first time, because I've done this the first time I played Superflex. You are chasing so many points, though, because one of those 2 probably won't hit the way you think, and then you're playing against people that are just, there's such a point gap that this is very, very risky.
Yeah, I will say in general, I find that people doing Superflex leagues for the first time, they tend to be very nervous until they have the first 2 quarterback slots filled, and they'll often reach for the second guy, and that then you get more value on these guys who are potentially, at the end of the tier 3, like your C.J. Strouds and your Jordan Loves, and then all of a sudden they just sit there forever because everyone has 2 quarterbacks filled pretty quickly.
That's right.
Let's look at...
Go ahead. No, you go.
Tier 4. This is round 7 to 10 range.
This is where I was headed, yeah.
Yeah, Tier 4 is led by Michael Penix, who I think has the most upside on this list by far, because I think he's just a 3-point shooter that'll throw bombs to Drake London and Darnell Mooney. Bryce Young, Geno Smith, as mentioned. Tua, really more health concerns with Tua than talent. Cam Ward, Matthew Stafford, more health concerns for Matthew Stafford. Sam Darnold in a new place in Seattle, Aaron Rodgers. And then, yes, we'll get to the starting quarterback of the Colts, Daniel Jones.
Yeah, for sure. Bryce Young, end of the year strong as well. They've added some weapons. And Tua's actually has top 10 quarterback potential. It's just the health is always a concern. But this is your 3rd quarterback. I'm not reaching for a 3rd quarterback in a Superflex, but I do generally like to have 3 quarterbacks if I can. And ideally, it's somebody like Bryce Young or Tua that basically that they're going to be the starter, right? As opposed to somebody like Joe Flacco. Now, Joe Flacco is great for he's probably going to be the starter for the first 6 weeks, and we'll talk about Flacco here in a second. But generally speaking, I tend to like somebody that, hey, we know is going to be the quarterback. If it's a quarterback with question marks, depending on how the draft is going, I may say, screw it, I'm going to go in with 2 quarterbacks because there's so much turnover at the position. What was it last year? 56 different players started at quarterback, something insane. Every year there's always injuries. There's always guys, Taylor Heineke's always good for a start or 2 every year. So I wouldn't reach for my 3rd quarterback. If there's a guy that's solid, you can grab. But otherwise, just, what? If I need another quarterback, I'll hopefully be able to grab one on the waiver wire. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.